we're going to talk about the changing workforce. I'm not going to be focusing on the different generations and the differences between them. I'm really going to be talking about changing expectations and coughing. We're going to talk about what I call social recruiting tools. And then we'll do a really deep dive into some of those tools, looking at blogs, video, social networking. You'll probably hear me talk about social networking in a way that's a little bit different than what you heard this morning. I have a very different take on how to use social networks, even like Facebook and MySpace. And then we're going to talk about how to take these concepts, these social recruiting concepts, and incorporate them into your career website as well. You don't just have to be blogging or out on social networks in order to incorporate social recruiting into your own site. And then we'll see if there are any questions. So let's dive right into the changing workforce. You know, an understanding that the workforce is changing. The generational influences absolutely are real. That is something that is happening. I'm sure all of your managers are experiencing. You're experiencing yourselves. But what I really want to focus on is what's happening kind of across the board. That there's an overall global change that has happened really because of technology. Our expectations of where we work, how we work, what kind of projects we work on, what we know about that work before we ever choose to do the work. Those expectations are changing because of technology. Today, career advancement and loyalty, a lot of that is being determined by the contribution that somebody can make rather than time. We used to hear a lot about tenure, how long somebody has been with an organization, not as much about their contribution. And that's really where value is being placed today. How quickly can someone make an impact? How can they come work on a project that they're going to value, be able to make an impact? How can they contribute? That's what the workforce is really starting to focus more on. You've heard over and over, especially around my generation and younger, we're extremely comfortable changing jobs. Granted, our economy is in a bit of a state of flux. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes at all. But 18 months is about the tenure for an average Gen Xer. So I'm about a year over my tenure at HOTUS right now. A little warning. People are really loyal to their families, to themselves, to their careers, their own skills. You're not seeing loyalty to a company the way that you might have with my grandfather, with my father. My father, who's worked in a steel mill for, oh my goodness, I'll give you away my age. I'm not going to do that. But almost, I think, since he was 20, worked for the same company. You just don't see that anymore. We really grew up seeing a lot of our parents, our grandparents, getting laid off, you know, not getting their pensions. And that loyalty just doesn't exist anymore. Even though everybody knows that, right? How often do you hear that? How many conferences have you been to where someone talks about this, right? None? Gotta get out more. Even though this is something that is almost in general accepted by our industry, especially by HR, they understand how these expectations are changing. The majority of employers are still reluctant to do anything about it. You know, selling this idea up the chain, trying to get your hiring managers to understand that expectations are changing is really hard. That's absolutely hard for you to have to do in this room. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today are sort of baby step ways, things that you can do within your organization to start moving them into the next generation tools and ways that you can meet job seekers' expectations today. So where do people find out about jobs, right? Even though there's technology, where people find out about jobs, that hasn't changed. They find out about them from their friends, from their family, from other colleagues. What it has changed, though, is where they find out about them. It's not always happening around the water cooler. It's not happening when they're out at a bar with friends. More and more, it's happening online. It's happening in places, yes, like Facebook. You absolutely have these conversations going on where people are sharing information with each other, but it's happening online. I travel a lot. I have a family. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I have a pretty big extended family. The way that my family kind of keep in touch with me a lot when I'm on the road is through Facebook. You'll see them, they'll write me messages through there, they'll write on my wall. They watch what I'm doing throughout the day because I'll post status updates and there'll be comments. You know, my husband commented this morning on my Facebook wall saying, I hope you feel better, get through your talk. This will be nice. these sources are the most influential, right? So if we can figure out ways to kind of become part of that conversation, become part of those communities where those conversations are happening, we're going to help influence decisions about our organization. We know that obviously people are relying heavily on online sources. They're also really relying heavily on your career site. But most career sites today do not meet the expectations of the average job seeker. Who has ever bought something on Amazon.com? Before you bought it, did you look at the reviews of what people had to say about whatever product you bought? Who did? Almost everybody. Who didn't? No. Did you know any of those people that wrote the reviews? No. Did you believe them? Who went to a movie recently and went and looked at the reviews, not just from critics, but on Yahoo, from other people who have seen the movie? And did it influence your decision? No. Who has gone to stay at a hotel or who has made a hotel choice without ever being able to get online to take a look at that room or take a look at what it looked like? And I don't mean for business. I mean, you're going on vacation. You're choosing a place to stay. Who makes those decisions without getting online and seeing pictures or seeing what other people have to say about it? You have. All right. I think this table right here. That's okay. Different strokes for different folks. But my point is that when we're making decisions about buying a book or going to see a movie or taking a vacation, we go to the web and we look for what other people have to say. And that influences our decision. We don't know these people, right? They're our online peers. We take it as third party and kind of unbiased in a way. It's very different from reading, on Amazon you have, here are the reviews, but here's what the publisher had to say about it. You read what the publisher had to say, but you really want to know what the other people have to say. And you view that as more credible. That certainly doesn't change when someone is thinking about making a major life decision like changing jobs. If they're going to do that and they're expecting that, it's what they're used to when they're going to do something like buy a book. That expectation doesn't change just because they've clicked on careers or they're looking, thinking about making a job change. So understanding that, we really have to beef up our career sites and help meet those expectations. Because if they don't find the information on your site, they're going to go looking for that information elsewhere. And you can never control the message. If you thought you could, if your agency ever told you you could, they lied. You can never control the message, but you really can't control any of the conversation that's going on outside of your career site. We're going to dive pretty deeply into that. When we talk about search, we talked a lot about search today, but we really focused on the marketing end of search. I want to focus on the search engine optimization side of search, the impact of Google. The impact of Google on your company's reputation, the impact of Google on how people find you, how many people come to your career site, their ability to find information like your job postings. I think the impact of Google is really underestimated. There are 121 million job-related searches every month on Google. It's more than Monster and Career Builder combined. Does that mean that someone got on there and that they're looking specifically for a job? Not necessarily, but there are career-related searches. And to be able to take advantage of that, to make sure that when someone has learned about an opportunity, they're interested in you as an employer, that when they go to Google to look for you, because they will, that the information that they find is really open and honest, and it meets their expectations of what they're out there looking for. Any questions? Dissenters? No? So I talk about this whole change that's happening as social recruiting. There is a major misnomer around what social means. When you hear people talk about social networks, it's very easy to take social as meaning fun, as meaning entertainment. That's not what social means when it comes to these terms, social computing, social recruiting. What social is referring to is that we are social animals. We, as a species, congregate in groups. We like to form communities. It's what we do. It's the kind of animals we are. That is how we are social, is by getting together and joining in communities.